World War II was full of horror stories, but an incident in 1943 was more like a skit from a comedy show. While the Germans occupied Holland, they meticulously built a fake airfield in an attempt to fool the Allied forces into wasting bombs and precious time on the decoy, rather than destroying valuable targets. As German pilot Werner Thiel recalls, dozens of fake planes made of wood were set around the fictitious landing strip. Just as they finished, the sound of Allied planes roared across the sky. Werner and his fellow soldiers ran for shelter, but were surprised to not hear any explosions following the air attack. The next morning they cautiously left their bunkers, fearing that time bombs had been dropped to detonate the following day. But what they found on the ground outside was enough to make them laugh respectfully. 6 to 10 bombs littered the fake airfield, but they were never going to explode, given that they were made of solid wood, and written on them were the words "wood for wood." The Allied forces had been spying on the Germans the entire time, and it was a cheeky way of saying, "We know you built a fake airfield and it's not worth dropping a real bomb onto." How many wiener-sized dogs would it take to kill you? For Tracy Garcia, the answer came with a brutal attack outside her home in Oklahoma. A pack of Dachshund mixed dogs weighing under 40 pounds or 18 kilograms, who spent most of their time living in a forest nearby, ran Tracy down outside her home, mauling her so badly that she did not survive. With legs shorter than an adult's hand and their bellies touching the ground, their stumpy little legs chased down their victim. Unfortunately, there were no short stools or nearby steps to climb onto in order to save herself from this tragic incident. So how many wiener dogs did it take to kill Tracy? Just 7. It was not confirmed if their names were Doc, Sleepy, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Bashful and Sneezy before being caught and euthanized by police. Imagine your first Tinder date ending like this. Liam Smith's first Tinder date with was going so well, he suggested they go back to his place with a bottle of wine. Once there, she headed to the bathroom, but after some time she sheepishly returned and admitted that she hadn't been able to flush her magnificently sized poo down the toilet. So she'd pulled it out, wrapped it in toilet paper and thrown it out through the window, which had a slight gap at the very top. But unfortunately she hadn't realised the window led to an enclosed airspace with another thick window blocking the other side, and the poo just bounced down to land on the ledge between them, visible but unreachable. Thinking her gymnastic skills would allow her to retrieve it, she asked Liam to push her up so she could squeeze through the small opening and reach down to where the poo sat. But she became so firmly wedged while hanging upside down that Liam was forced to call the fire brigade, who rushed out and rescued her before all the blood in her body had rushed to her head from sheer embarrassment. At which point do coincidences start to feel like a glitch in the Matrix? In 2001, 10-year-old Laura Buxton released a helium balloon into the air. After writing on it, "Please return to Laura Buxton," along with her address. After floating 140 miles, the balloon landed in a hedge on the property of another girl named Laura Buxton, with only a few months age difference. But the coincidences didn't stop there. After communicating by mail, the girls met up and they both just happened to wear pink sweaters and jeans, and both arrived with their pet guinea pigs, which were the same colour and had the same markings. They both had brown hair in a ponytail, had the same eye colour, measured the same height, both tall for their age, and after sharing stories, it turned out they both had 3-year-old black Labradors at home as well as grey rabbits. The coincidences may not have been life-saving or world-changing, but the girls have remained close friends until today. Would you charge these parents with ignorance or something far worse? When the extended family of a 7-year-old girl in Indonesia became concerned that they hadn't seen her in a long time and her parents continually told them that she was sick, they decided to travel to the girl's home and check up on her themselves. What they found there was absolutely shocking. The girl's parents had become frustrated with her naughty behaviour 4 months earlier, and a local village shaman convinced them that their daughter was possessed by a spirit and an exorcism was necessary. The ritual involved holding the girl underwater for extended periods of time in a deep bathtub in order to flush out the evil spirit. After this was performed, the shaman instructed the couple to take the girl home, lay her down and wash her body each week until she fully recovered, free of the spirit's possession. But when the extended family found the girl in her bedroom, her body had already decomposed to just skin and bones, as she did not survive the exorcism that day and had died due to drowning. Both the parents and the shaman were charged with murder. You won't believe which celebrity saved this woman's life with a simple moment of sliding doors. In 2001, a famous actress was driving through New York City when a jaywalker stepped onto the road. She hit the brakes, but the jaywalker also stopped. She began driving again, but the lady started walking again. For an awkward amount of time, the two of them got caught up in this stop-start of who's going first until they both burst out laughing before going their separate ways. 10 years later, the jaywalker sent a letter to the woman in the car telling her that due to that moment, she had missed her train to work by less than a minute. And just before the next train got her to her office, the entire building was destroyed when a plane controlled by terrorists slammed into it. She worked on the 77th floor of the Twin Towers, and the date was September 11th. Just like in the movie Sliding Doors, missing a train changed the course of this woman's life. Only this time it wasn't Gwyneth Paltrow playing the role, because Gwyneth Paltrow was the woman driving the car.
She called it her sliding doors.
When it comes to a woman protecting her honour, this story is a head above the rest. When Navin Yildirim's husband left for extended work, she should have enjoyed her time raising their two children in the Turkish village where they lived. But before she knew it, a neighbour Gadej began showing up with a gun in his hand, forcing her to engage in sexual acts and threatening her life if she dared to speak out. When she fell pregnant, he threatened to publish pictures of her swollen belly so people would believe she was having an affair. For 8 months, he continued brutally abusing her until one day she had enough. She lunged for a rifle and fired. He screamed abuse at her, reaching for his own gun, so she aimed at what he valued the most and sent a bullet into his groin. At a nearby cafe, a group of men were shocked to see Navin approach them clutching an object in her hands, a trail of blood behind her. She raised Gadej's head in the air and screamed, "Don't play with my honour. Here is the head of the man who played with my honour." She then threw the rapist's head to the ground and quietly waited for the authorities to arrive. Adultery as a religious practice is promoted in one part of the world, and you won't believe where it is. There is a place called Sex Mountain where a strange ritual takes place. According to legend, when a 16th century prince had an affair with his stepmother, they ran to this mountain to commit incest, but were caught in the act by soldiers who killed and buried the couple on the spot. A shrine now marks the area, and it is believed that if two strangers meet and have sex in the same location, finishing what the couple had started, great blessings and fortune will be granted to them. A huge sex industry sprang up around Sex Mountain, boosting the economy, but causing a lot of religious conflict until the government stepped in to shut it down. But to this day, strong believers still flock to the area to chase their adulterous fortune. And contrary to Islamic belief, the mountain is located in the most populated Muslim island on earth, Java in Indonesia. This painting has an insane backstory. In 1816, French ship the Medusa hit sandbanks miles out to sea. 400 passengers and crew scrambled for lifeboats, but there weren't enough. Tearing the ship apart, a life raft was built to hold 150 lower class people. And although those in the lifeboats promised to tow them to land, they quickly changed their minds, cutting the raft loose to drift aimlessly at sea. Within days, those on the raft began murdering each other and turned to cannibalism to survive. Their weight caused the raft to submerge below the waterline, causing everyone's skin to rot and turn to ulcers. The healthy made a decision to kill the sick and injured, throwing them overboard or feasting on their remains. By the time a passing ship rescued them 13 days later, only 15 people had survived. 27-year-old Theodore Jericho became obsessed with the story and painted this masterpiece, incredibly controversial in its depiction of social class. The hero in the picture is a black man in a time of slavery. Jericho died a few years later, broke and without recognition. Today, this painting is considered an iconic work of French Romanticism. If you thought your teenage years were turbulent, you haven't met Julianne. In 1971, 17-year-old Julianne Koepka sat with her mother on a small flight across Peru, excited to be flying home for Christmas. Despite a huge thunderstorm, the pilot pushed ahead until lightning struck the plane, causing an engine to explode as the wing tore off. As the plane plummeted 2 miles to Earth, Julianne's last memory was being sucked into the air while still strapped into her seat. When she woke up, she was alone on the floor of the Amazon rainforest, injured and barely able to see without her glasses. She spent over a week following a river before stumbling across a small boat shed. Pouring petrol into her maggot-infested wounds, she saved her limbs from gangrene before some local workers arrived on the scene. At first, they mistook her for a mythological river goddess, but soon heard her insane survival story and rushed her to medical help. The Guinness Book of Records calls this the deadliest flight in aviation history caused by lightning, and Julianne is in the top 10 for surviving the highest fall to Earth without a parachute. ready to hear a story?